Well, if you are a few who wish to dictate to literally billions, the last thing you want is a sharp-minded, consciousness-expanded population. You want people's consciousness to be suppressed. You want them to see things in a very small area. You don't want people to expand their consciousness and see the big picture. You don't want people whose mental brain faculties are working efficiently and sharply. That's the last thing you want. And so humans are being bombarded by multiple different things to suppress our consciousness and to destabilize our brain and emotional function. And so it's no accident that when you look at things like aspartame, which was actually brought into public use through the manipulation of Donald Rumsfeld as head of Searle Pharmaceuticals in America, who used his contacts in the Bush-Reagan administration in the 80s to get aspartame into public use when all the independent research said it must not be allowed to be used in foodstuffs. And Searle sold out to Monsanto, which is now the people behind aspartame. You've got fluoride being put in the water around the world. You've got monosodium glutamate that is tricking the brain to read more taste in food than is really there. And you've got mobile phones, which people are using all the time. Now, one common theme of all these different things is what scientists call excitotoxins. What these things do is they excite brain cells, they make them vibrate and stimulate themselves to the point where they're destroyed. And they are destabilizing the electrical, and through food additives which we give to our children in sodas and packaged and manufactured processed food, they are destabilizing the human body and thought and emotional processes electrically and chemically. And what is the human form? It is a electrochemical organism. And when that chemical balance and electrical balance is destabilized, we stop thinking straight, we stop feeling balanced emotions. We had a lady in Britain, which was in all the national papers 3 or 4 years ago now, who 40 years ago, out of nowhere, became a manic depressive. And for 40 years, she was in and out of institutions, until one day a friend said to her, "Can you remember anything that happened to you about the time this all started?" And she said, "Well, the only thing I can think of is I had 19 tooth fillings with amalgam, mercury." And the friend said, "Well, maybe you ought to look at that." So the lady had the amalgams taken out and replaced with non-mercury fillings. She went on a mercury detox program, and after 40 years, the depression disappeared and has never come back. And she would have gone through 40 years thinking who she was, her personality, who she was a manic depressive, when it wasn't her at all. It was a chemical imbalance in the body caused by the mercury. Now, when you look at the chemical and electromagnetic bombardment that we're getting from what we bravely call the modern world and the cutting edge of science, how many people are living false personalities, reacting emotionally in ways that are not really them? It's the imbalance of the chemical and electrical state of their bodies. And this is how they are destabilizing and imbalancing our ability to think and feel emotion in a balanced, sharp way that can see beyond the veil that they're throwing up in front of us. And another way that they do it is by education. They take children from the earliest years, 4 or 5 years of age, until they get to what, 16, 17, 18, 5 days a week. They are constantly telling the children about the world, what is reality, who they are, the nature of life, and what's happening in the world. And it's not education, it's indoctrination of a belief system. The media is taking the official version of events, if you watch how the media works, the mainstream media, and it is reporting to the people the official version of events, unquestioned overwhelmingly. Who questions 9/11 in the mainstream media? Virtually no one globally. It's other people that have demolished the official story of 9/11, not mainstream journalists. And again, people are being bombarded with an official version of events, which then becomes official history. And what the mainstream media and the education system in all these different countries is, collectively, is a hypnotist. It's like a hypnotist in a stage show. What is the hypnotist doing? He's implanting a belief into the mind of the stooge on the stage in some form of reality. For instance, that's not a potato you're eating, it's an apple. And I've seen this. I've been to hypnotist stage shows as part of my research. And the person now eats the potato, but when the message goes from the tongue to the brain to be decoded, the brain has been implanted with the belief that it's an apple, so it decodes the taste of an apple. You'll never convince the stooge on the stage that he's not tasting an apple, because that's what he's tasting. Now, if you take that to the bigger level of the world, we, through these various sources of what pass for information, mainstream media, education, etc., are constantly being given a false reality, programmed with it. And if we take it on, our brain, in the same way as the apple and the potato, then reads reality to fit the programmed belief. And it's not that we need to awaken or become enlightened. We are enlightened. What we need to do is to remove the programming that is keeping us from that enlightenment by programming our minds to see reality in the way that these manipulators desire. And when you look at the way the manipulation works through the secret society network globally, where secret societies connect into secret societies and actually are a one vast web in truth, the higher you go in the secret society network, the more access you get to really, really advanced information. And in the public arena, this information is just not circulated. And anyone that talks about it, people like me, oh, he's crazy, laugh at him, it's crazy. Don't believe him, he's crazy. And so what you have is a few people at the top of this network who have a very advanced understanding of how the body works and how the mind works and how emotions work. And they are manipulating a global population who, for the reasons I've explained, are largely ignorant of who they are, where they are, and the world that they're living in. And this is why getting this information circulating so that people can see what has been kept from them all their lives is so important. Because I know from experience that when people hear these other explanations, often they make far more sense than the world they've been told about since they were born.